this started out as personal story and has morphed into a thought for the week because of something that came up in the last 24 hours. So watch my time, because if I start going too far over 15 minutes, someone's going to tell me, as everyone pulls out their stopwatches. So many of you know this. Over the summer, my aunt, who I was very close to, passed away. It was very sudden, although not unexpected, as she was 79. But it was unexpected in the way it happened. On Thursday night, I got a call that my mother was taking my aunt to the hospital with pain down her left arm and chest pains and shortness of breath, and she was pretty sure she was having a heart attack. Heart attacks run in my family. That would not have been surprising. She got to the hospital. She was told she was not having a heart attack, but they didn't know what was wrong with her. They kept her overnight for observation. They sent her home. The following 2 days later, on Saturday, my mother was called back because she was running a 104 fever and was delirious. Didn't recognize my mother, her baby sister. And she was rushed to the hospital, and within 24 hours they found that she had a staph infection which had dislodged from wherever it was and landed in her heart. And from her heart was throwing out into her entire body. It had crossed the blood-brain barrier. They put her in a medically induced coma, and she never woke up. Wow, second community moment in 2 weeks to use the term medically induced coma. This was really rough for me. This was the relative that I was the closest to. Neither of my parents are particularly close with any of their siblings except my mother and her sister. And I think that's what made it particularly difficult for me as a non-theist in a very Catholic family. My family couldn't, it only came to a head once, but I was not able to grieve in the way that I needed to because I was too busy trying to grieve in the way that they needed me to, in a way that they would recognize as grieving. I didn't, for example, go to the hospital to visit her because I didn't think that sitting there, I knew that there was nothing there at that point to respond to me. My aunt, as far as I was concerned, was not there anymore. The same thing happened when my grandmother was passing away, and although at the time I was only 16 and hadn't really yet come out as an atheist, so I didn't have the same problems. But my parents almost didn't want me to go to the funeral mass because they fully expected me to be like, no, there is nothing, there is but this and the inky blackness of the grave. But I would not have. Obviously, I have slightly more tact than that. But, okay, so the point of all this was the hardest part of it for me was coming to grips with what people say to you when you are living in a society, especially when the social group that you share with this person is strongly religious, in this case strongly Catholic. I grew up in a very, very Irish Catholic neighborhood in Quincy. Everyone has known each other. The same 5 families have lived on the street I grew up on for 5 generations. And how do you deal with people telling you they'll pray for you? I'm sure many of us in this room have dealt with the passive-aggressive, oh, well, I'll pray for you. The nasty version of it. Many of us are pretty well convinced that prayer does not actually do anything. I mean, human hands solve human problems. Core value number 4. That's what that means. But it took me a while to really sit and think with it because I was getting offended. I was getting upset. I wanted to shake people and say, why don't you write a letter to Santa Claus for me too while you're at it? But then I started thinking about what do they actually mean? Because when people say that they're going to pray, there's not just one thing they mean. They don't always just mean, I am going to invoke a supernatural deity who you don't believe in and who probably doesn't exist and ask them to do something. Yeah, a lot of the times they do mean that. A lot of the times they say, I'm praying that you get a job. In that, I am asking that. But they also mean, I want the world to be better for you. I wish comfort and peace for you. I wish your family. They're not saying, I'm praying for your Aunt Sol because I think she's in purgatory and I'm trying to intercede so that she will move on. Maybe they do, but a lot of American Catholics right now don't. What they're saying is, I wish you and your family peace. I wish you and your family comfort. My thoughts are with you, and this is how I express them. And once I came to realize that and think about, people don't just mean one thing when they say, I'm going to pray for you. I was able to really internalize that and say, okay, in my head, it flipped the universal translator in my head to hear what I knew they were really trying to say to me. Because the reason, and so this is where this morphs into something that just happened. As many of you who read my Facebook know, right now, after the tragedy in Paris, there's been the Pray for Paris meme which has been going around. And I am seeing so much hate and negativity and mockery from people I respect and love in the atheist and secular communities right now about that. And if I have one message for people right now, this is my thought for the day, my thought for the week. Stop it. When people say, pray for Paris, they're not saying, I'm praying to a God who didn't stop this in the first place. Because, frankly, if you understand their theology, a lot of them don't think that that's the case, because there is the free will argument. Again, I don't know a whole lot about it because I don't think there is. But what they're saying is, I am sympathizing with you. I am mourning for you. I want the world to be a place where this doesn't happen. I want healing, and I want comfort for those who have been affected by this. Sympathy is something to be celebrated. Compassion is something to be celebrated and encouraged wherever it is found and however it is expressed. So, anyone in the room, anyone watching this on YouTube once I post it, please allow people to express their mourning in a way that is meaningful to them, because it's not stopping them from doing something meaningful. Ironically, this is the most religiously themed talk I've given in years, and when I wrote my blog post about human hands solve human problems, I came across a quote by, of all people, Pope Francis, in which the man wrote, "You pray for the hungry, and then you go out and feed them. That's how prayer works." Unless someone is using, I'm praying for this, as a reason to not do something effective, to not affect the change, and are just throwing their thoughts at the sky, because that is problematic. People who pray for their children to get better instead of taking them to a doctor, that is problematic, and that is a place to step in and say, no, you need to do something positive. But if people are doing the only thing that they feel they can to express sympathy, and it really does mean there's nothing I can personally do, don't mock them for it.